What has just been leaked about Lewis Hamilton's contract with Ferrari is the kind of revelation that brings the entire Formula One paddock to a screeching halt. It's a twist you'd hardly believe unless it came from the most reliable sources in the sport. We're talking about a hidden detail buried deep in the fine print, far from the cameras, microphones, and eyes of the fans, that could completely shift the balance of power within Ferrari. It's not about money, bonuses, or even performance targets. No, this is something much more explosive. According to these surprising claims, there is a controversial clause that gives Lewis Hamilton absolute control over his own destiny at Ferrari. Not partial influence, not a point to be negotiated, total control. Imagine this: no matter what happens on the track, no matter if the wins keep coming, or if the season turns into a nightmare, Hamilton would have, all by himself, the power to decide whether he stays with the Scuderia for the 2027 season. And here's the most shocking part. Ferrari, the most iconic team in F1 history, supposedly couldn't stop him. Think about it. In a sport where contracts are almost always designed to protect the team first, where performance clauses and exit conditions are dictated from the top down, here we have a scenario where the driver, and not just any driver, but a 7-time world champion, holds all the cards. It's a situation that could redefine not only Hamilton's future, but the very future of Ferrari, regardless of how this roller coaster partnership plays out. And if you think that's where the surprise ends, you're wrong. The timing of this clause, the reasons behind it, and the way it could shift the balance of power at Maranello for years to come make it one of the most fascinating contract leaks ever seen in Formula One. What makes this leaked clause so extraordinary is not just the control it gives Hamilton, but the psychological shift it creates within Ferrari. In most Formula One contracts, renewal depends on a combination of performance metrics, mutual satisfaction, and the team's long-term plans. There are escape clauses, purchase options, and dozens of conditions in the fine print that allow the team to cut ties with a driver if the relationship stops working. But this is different. This is a rare case where the stopwatch and the standings are irrelevant. Hamilton could go another season without a single win, with a string of difficult weekends, and still retain the right to show up at Ferrari's headquarters in Maranello and say, "I'm staying," and they can't stop him. That kind of autonomy changes the entire power dynamic. For Ferrari's management, every decision they make about Hamilton's car, his race strategy, or his public image now has an extra layer of complexity. If they push him too hard or frustrate him too often, he could still decide to stay, forcing the team to continue a relationship that, privately, they might want to end. On the other hand, if they treat him like an equal partner and make him feel valued, he could use this clause not as a shield against criticism, but as a sign of long-term commitment. It also puts Hamilton in a position of almost unprecedented influence. With this clause in his pocket, every meeting, every technical analysis, and every closed-door conversation with team bosses takes on a different weight. He doesn't operate with the fear that a bad season could prematurely end his time at Ferrari. Instead, he can focus on the long-term vision, shaping the direction of the team for 2026 and beyond, knowing that if he wants to see that project through to the end, the decision is entirely his. Hamilton has already shown that he intends to use that influence to the fullest. His integration into Ferrari has not just been about learning the ins and outs of the SF25 or adapting to new race engineers. From day one, he has been actively involved in restructuring the team's approach. The documents he has submitted to senior management are not just notes on corners, balance, or brake feel. They are comprehensive proposals covering technical development priorities, pit operations, and even the way the team communicates internally. It is a master plan to turn Ferrari into a championship-winning team, based on his experience at McLaren and Mercedes and honed by nearly 2 decades at the elite level of Formula One. In addition, the shadow of the 2026 rule change looms large. Hamilton knows that these new technical rules, especially the change in power unit specifications and aerodynamic freedoms, will be the biggest opportunity for Ferrari to close the gap with Red Bull and McLaren. He has seen it before. A team that gets the concept right at the start of a new era can dominate for years. Mercedes did it in 2014 and Red Bull since 2022. If Ferrari gets it right in 2026, it could be the platform for its most spectacular chapter, and with this clause, it can ensure it is there to take advantage of it in 2027 if the project takes off. But there is another side to this story, even more intriguing. Hamilton's first season in red has been complicated, with moments of visible frustration on and off the track. His comments in Hungary, calling himself absolutely useless, and even suggesting that Ferrari might consider replacing him, initially seemed like the words of someone questioning his place in the team. However, with this clause in play, the reality is much more complex. Those statements could be a strategic message, publicly acknowledging the challenges while privately holding on to the most powerful card. Even the dynamic with Charles Leclerc changes in this light. Leclerc may be Ferrari's big long-term bet, the driver around whom they have built the team for years, but Hamilton's clause means they cannot simply move him or replace him without his consent. This could test the unity of the garage, especially if resources and upgrades become a point of friction in the coming seasons. The historical context makes it even more fascinating. No driver in Ferrari's modern history has ever had this contractual advantage. Not Schumacher in his prime, not Alonso at the height of his reputation, not Vettel as a newcomer with 4 world titles. That Hamilton negotiated and secured this clause suggests that his arrival at Maranello was not just for the prestige of wearing red, but a calculated move to gain the time, authority, and freedom to shape the team in his image. That's why this is more than a contractual leak. It's a glimpse into how Formula One is evolving. In an era where top drivers are brands, strategists, and negotiators, this clause is the ultimate masterstroke. It gives Hamilton the leeway to weather difficult seasons, the platform to demand changes, and the ability to leave on his own terms or stay even if the relationship becomes strained. This could propel Ferrari to glory under his guidance or chain them to a partnership longer than performance warrants. The truth is that the next 2 years will be watched like never before. Every qualifying session, every team radio, every update from Maranello will be analyzed not only in terms of performance, but knowing that Hamilton's future is completely in his hands. And when 2026 comes to an end, it may not be the team that decides what happens next, but Hamilton exercising the most powerful clause in any contract on the grid, the one that gives him complete control over his destiny. What appears to be a contractual footnote could, in reality, be the trigger for one of the most intriguing power plays modern F1 has ever seen. It's not just that Hamilton can choose his future, it's that that choice could reverberate through every corner of Ferrari's operations. Engineers will know that their work could be judged not only by results on the track, but by whether they can convince Hamilton to activate the option for 2027. Strategists will plan knowing that the man in the cockpit could be shaping their future as much as they are shaping his. Even rival teams will be watching, aware that a driver of his caliber with this level of control can upset the competitive balance in unexpected ways. It also adds a new level of drama to every race weekend. Every mistake, every narrowly missed podium, every moment of brilliance will be interpreted in light of the fact that Hamilton has the final say. The tension is not only played out on the stopwatch, but lingers in the post-race analysis, in private meetings, and in the moments when team bosses wonder if their vision matches his. If 2026 brings a breakthrough, the clause will be the key to an extended golden era. If not, it will be the insurance policy of a champion who has no intention of leaving without exhausting every possibility of success. For Ferrari, it means living with the certainty that the most important decision about its future is no longer entirely in its hands. For Hamilton, it means the rare luxury of time to influence, adapt, and build something lasting. And for the rest of us, It means witnessing a story that could unfold in ways no one can predict. Because when the balance of power tilts so heavily toward one driver, the ending isn't written in a boardroom or dictated solely by results. It's written in the mind of the man who now has the power to keep the red suit in his closet for as long as he chooses.